Hello, this is Group A, and we are going to cover the question shown on screen. Are male and female brains structurally identical? First of all, it is important to mention that this is a topic that, up to this day, is still a matter of debate for which giving a concrete answer remains complicated. So moving on, we are first going to give a little overview about our initial position and its weak points. Then we are going to explain our current position on the topic, giving the most compelling arguments we found, the conclusions we reached, and its associated weak points. Our initial position on the matter considered mostly the anatomical factors that could shed some light on trying to answer this question, considering what we first found and knew. Starting with the most obvious features, male skulls are more robust and have angular features, which grants the space needed for bigger brains than in females. Regarding the brain itself, the amygdala and hypothalamus are typically larger in men, while the hippocampus and corpus callosum are often more developed in women. Additionally, we thought that, due to features such as brain plasticity and various life experiences, male and female brains would be developed differently, and considering the aforementioned aspects, concluding that brains are, in fact, distinguishable. However, this first approach shows some flaws. Firstly, we were too focused on finding exclusively the structural differences, which led to the impression of significant disparities that, after all, were not that important. Secondly, we did not consider the similarities between male and female brains. While the point was to try and find evidence proving the opposite, looking for information that considered both brains as equal was also a way of going over the matter. Thirdly, our conclusion was oversimplified. The composite of functional differences and the causes that could lead to possible structural difference were way too complex to be ignored, striving towards giving the most valid answer. Finally, we misjudged the impact of life experiences and brain plasticity. Later research suggested that their influence is less significant than we had initially thought, as this affects both men and women but does not account for structural differences between their brains to allow for giving a foolproof answer. In order to understand our current position, it is important to mention that research on this topic has advanced quite a lot. As said earlier, studies talked about structural difference such as larger total brain and cerebellar volumes for males and difference in the female caudate and hippocampus. However, recent studies using more sophisticated technology have led to an uncertain state of affairs on the matter, as later investigations do not yield the same conclusions, challenging more simplistic interpretations. For example, variability among brains and size-independent factors that could influence its anatomy should be taken into account rather than sticking strictly to simplified reasonings such as size. Moreover, after extensive and reference-based research, we formed our current position. We found both distinct features and significant overlaps between male and female brains. Literature research has indicated that male brains are, in comparison and on average, between 10 to 15% larger than female brains, even after adjusting for height. Referring to our initial position, research confirmed that the amygdala and hypothalamus are bigger in the male brains, while a female brain indeed constitutes a more developed hippocampus and corpus callosum. Furthermore, based on the findings of Luders and Toka, women display greater cortical thickness and complexity, especially in the parietal and frontal lobes. Besides these structural differences, it is also suggested that males and females have different cognitive processing styles, while males showing stronger intrahemispheric and females showing stronger interhemispheric connections. Concerning the similarities between male and female brains, recent findings suggest that no distinct categories should be formed for male and female brains. While some research points that some structural differences can be attributed to an individual's biological sex, others state that they are simply the result of biological and environmental influences shaping the continuum of each individual's brain structures. Supporting this, Yole et al. Interpreted that the brains of males and females are likely to be classified as identical, with larger differences being only evident in rare brain types. In conclusion, we maintain our initial position, since the literature on differences and similarities between male and female brains has led to compelling arguments for both stances. However, the difference in average brain size, as well as in other structures, has determined our ultimate option. Male and female brains are not completely structurally identical, that is, mostly distinguishable even if it is by a tiny bit. And finally, we are going to cover the weak points of our current position. First of all, there is a lack of clarity on the actual impact of the differences and similarities of structural features between male and female brains. Thus, our current position leaves it unclear whether the structural differences with brains are mostly due to the individual's biological sex or caused by other factors. Moving on, the variability and tremendous overlap within sexes complicates the claim of brains being mostly distinguishable. Moreover, in our current position, it remains unclear whether the discovered differences are significant enough to differentiate between male and female brains due to biological sex or whether they are just general trends. In our current position, we also did not strive to define the vague term of brains being mostly distinguishable, which caused us to struggle with giving an accurate answer to the question. Finally, the huge amount of contradictions and misconceptions among papers made our decision even more difficult, as it was hard for us to know which papers were correct and relevant for us to give a clear response, going again to the point of this topic not having a clear definition of the problem. So this is the end of our presentation. In conclusion, we state that males and female brains are distinguishable, although some differences are only small and even a significant overlap is found between them. These are our references and papers that help us reach this conclusion, and please feel free to contact us or ask any question in case of doubt. Thank you for listening.